Hi, I'm James Peters of pavedwave.org, and what I'm going to do in a short series of videos is show you how to put together an LDP setup. The most important thing is to, I think, get everything out that you're going to put together eventually. Forget about the tools for a minute and just lay out the pieces so that when you actually start to put it together, you're not missing something or you get stopped halfway. So the first thing I do is pick out, of course, what trucks you want to put on the board. Take a look at the board, the wheelbase, and if you have anything to deal with as far as like mounting a truck over the kicktail, which is going to require a little different wedge setup. These mounting holes are on the relatively flat part of the deck, so this will be a pretty standard setup. So the first thing I want to figure out is if the axles are going to be at the same height. I want to have the rear truck at the same or even slightly higher height than the front. So the Bennett's going to be the front truck, and the SplitFire here is going to be the rear. It's just, this is the truck I happen to have on hand. You could also do this with a tracker RTS or with a seismic. I would use basically the same amount of wedging in the back. So after you've figured out like what trucks you're going to use, then you want to choose your wedging. And what I'm shooting for here is to mount 75mm big zigs. So with that in mind, I want to make sure that I've got enough riser, and for that I will need, for the front, I'm going to try a 1/4" flat riser with a 15-degree Khiro wedge. These are the biggest wedges out of the Khiro riser kit. And in the back, I've just got a hard Khiro wedge, and then I'm also using a 7-degree out of the Khiro wedge kit, and also a 3-degree, so it's 10. They also have a 10-degree wedge, but I couldn't find it, so or I've already used it somewhere else. So so I'm using a couple wedges there. What that means with this wedging is you're going to need long enough bolts. So be sure that you have at least one set of 2.5s, 2.5-inch bolts, and I would recommend usually getting a couple sets at least of 2-inch bolts, because you tend to use those more for these mid-range areas. You could get 3-inch bolts. It's kind of overkill, but I would definitely get sets in the 2-inch to 2.5-inch range, and always order a couple extra sets. Sometimes you strip the heads. These are Phillips heads, and sometimes you strip those, or you strip the threads themselves, and so it's always good to have extra bolts. Another thing to consider, and I'm going to put a toe stop on this one, so that's the other thing to consider, is up front I could either put my toe stop here, which is too far forward for me. I could have put it back here on this bolt hole, but that kind of restricts me a little bit. With this one, I'd almost consider drilling a center hole here and mount it in the middle, and that would also have the benefit of you'd be able to ride switch and get the exact same spot. I'm considering that, but I think for the sake of brevity, I'm going to go ahead and just mount it back here, and I'll do that in the next segment. But so after you have decided on your wedges, and you have actually put these and aligned them so that you know that the axles are at the same height, then we're just going to mount them up.